Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. 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 Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice.
We were always honest. You couldn't hide the fact that he was aging, right? And we saw that there were moments where it showed that he was. No one is denying that.
He is as sharp as ever, as I have known him to be in my engagement and my experience with him. And I know when I walk into the Oval Office or see him on Air Force One, I have to be on top of my game. I do. I mean, and that's just kind of my engagement with him and how it's been for the past couple of years.
We were always honest. You couldn't hide the fact that he was aging, right? And we saw that there were moments where it showed that he was.
You know who it is and what time it is. Well, actually, I have no idea what time it is because I got clocks all over the place and they're all different. It's Techno Tuesday. No, it's Wednesday. Keep it together, AP. It's Wednesday. And that means the Judge Andrew Napolitano is on the show today. We're going to have a great conversation. I'm working on so many fun little schemes behind the scenes. I'm always scheming. And the schemes are ways that I can entertain you and make you happy. It is. I look every day. I'm like, oh my God, they're going to love this. I've got some short-term schemes. We'll call them plans. Short-term plans. I got some medium-term plans, and I got some long-term plans for all of the viewers of the Wake Up America show. If you're one of the 34 special people who are over on Rumble right now, I just want you guys to know, I'm not speaking to anybody but you, Quest Fanning, T-Mill22, Thormock, etc., that you're here, you're with me live right when we start. You my boys and you my gals and you're whatever you identify as, I guess. This is American 2025. Dad Bod Baboon. Just want to say thanks. Oh, the lights are flickering over at the Capitol and the TSA agents are digging in their couch cushions for lunch money. But the engines of the American economy are still going. The government is shut down. Suburban Dad Corps. Whoa, that's a hell of a name. Is that like a new genre of music? I'll bet it is. If you go to YouTube and you type that in. Nice to see you guys. Don't forget to click the like button. The engines of the American economy are still running. The government is shut down. And people are still able to do business. International trade, things like that are still happening. Well, at least it is happening in places where your governor doesn't think that socialism is a personality trait. Today, we are going to ask the question, what happens when you put the most powerful government in the world on pause and nobody really misses it, right? The shutdown chaos has entered week 3. And let me tell you, it's starting to feel like those who are missing government paychecks might just be the most effective libertarian policy implementation that we've seen in years. 900,000 furloughed, 700,000 working without pay. And while the bureaucrats, of course, are screaming over this, everyday Americans are wondering, wait, didn't we vote to reduce this bloat? Isn't this, are we getting what we voted for? Considering that most of us did vote for Trump, of those who voted, Dad Bod Baboon says he got a new package of Revere's Rebel Roast yesterday, opened the package and was hit with a wave of absolute bliss. The Revere's Rebel Roast is a special blend. I think, Dad Bod, you're the only person who has had it. We haven't had anybody else purchase that. We haven't advertised it a lot. That's kind of our fault. But you're the best advertisement that there is. Head over to the Griff Shop this morning at forlibertyshop.com and grab yourself a bag of Revere's Rebel Roast. You will love it, just like Dad bought. He doesn't work for us. We don't pay him to say that. Check the reviews on the website, guys. If you have a review that you haven't written yet, please do so. If you've bought products from us in the past, because it just makes such a huge difference. I can tell people all day long about how freaking amazing our coffee is, and it really is. People roll your eyes when they're like, oh, you have a coffee like everybody else. I'm a coffee lover. I meticulously went through coffees, drinking them one at a time, and then ranking them 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars. I deliberately chose delicious coffees for my favorite founding fathers. I would never dishonor the founding fathers who I revere with bad coffee. This stuff is stinking good. It's if you really like coffee. If you don't care, then you drink whatever somebody pulls out of a can and it's 3 days old and it's in a styrofoam cup. My coffee is probably not for you. And that's okay because it's pricey, it's expensive. And we just saw that gold dropped 5%. So I know a lot of my followers are really upset. You got to know when to hold them. Know when to fold them. Know when to sold them. Grab that Rebel Roast. Thank you, Brad Beckman, for dropping that. Man, you're doing a great job over there. Today's not payday, but today's the day I got to do the books for pay. So Brad's all over it. The shutdown has entered week 3. It's starting to, it doesn't look bad to me. It looks like it's nothing but upside all around the place. So we're in week 3. It's the second longest government shutdown that we have ever had. And the Democrats' poll numbers are dropping off a cliff. Trump's numbers, meanwhile, shooting up. And I can't help but wonder if it's because of Democrats like these.
When did you receive or learn about the threat against you from Christopher Moynihan? And is it plausible that the speaker hadn't heard about this case before a reporter asked him this morning, since the authorities in New York announced the arrest on Sunday?
Well, that's not clear, and that, is for people to judge the credibility of that response. At the end of the day, here in America, we're living in a moment of extreme political violence, and that impacts every single person in public service and the people that we are all working hard to represent. But we will not be intimidated. We will continue to show up and stand up and speak up.
These guys, this is like the weakest crop of Democrats I've ever seen in my life. Nancy Pelosi in her prime would have eaten this man alive. Hakeem Jeffries, we'll get to him later. I've got another topic for you today. We're going to pivot. Texas, Mississippi, South Carolina. Red states across the nation are doing victory laps while D.C. is stuck in the potholes of their own making. Republican-led states are thriving with GDP percent growing up to 7%. Those are big numbers. That's conservative capitalism doing what it does best, producing, investing, growing. You don't want to miss this segment. That's going to be 7:30-ish. We're calling it Washington Sleeps and the South Rises. No, not that. Anything but that. It's a lost cause. At 8 o'clock this morning, the Liberty Bench gets deep. Judge Knapp joins us live to discuss the latest Supreme Court power plays. Should racial gerrymandering be thrown out the window once and for all? Yay or nay? Do we agree with Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Jackson that minorities are disabled? The judge is going to weigh in with the kind of constitutional clarity that's going to make the MSNBC hosts break out in hives if they heard it. It's a culture war victory lap at the end of the show today. Even the New York Times is admitting the right is winning ground in American culture. Elon Musk bought Twitter. Conservative alternatives to woke programming are gaining traction. I thank you, Rumble. I thank you. I got nothing against people who don't watch us on Rumble, but the experience for the Wake Up America show, warts and all, is the best on Rumble. And we wouldn't be able to monetize the show the way that we monetize this show without Rumble. There are no other serious platforms for a show like what I'm producing that can actually help us to achieve the most from our show than Rumble. So if you believe in our mission and you believe in free speech, then you really should be over on Rumble. If you're watching us on any other platform, again, I don't blame you, especially if it's on X. Xers get a pass. I never get to get introduced to any of you guys. If you're watching over on X, I never get to say hello. How are you? If you watch us regularly, I know you might be a busy person, but every once in a while you should hop over to Rumble and you should just drop a comment in the chat. Say, hey, AP, keep it up. Keep up the good work. And if you're over on Rumble and you haven't yet, please do click like. And FYI, anyone who makes a donation to the show this morning, any kind of financial contribution in the way of a purchase at the shop or a Rumble rant, even if it's just $1 Rumble rant, that's going to give you an entry to win a great prize from the shop at the end of the show. You get to play Liberty Loot Live. You get to play it at home on your mobile phone. We text you a code after you text us at that phone line at the bottom of the screen, 573-319-1586. So Andy Opperman said, let's start the bonus plate passing around. Exactly. So you know that the content's going to be good. You know we're going to have fun. And then at the end of the day, everybody who plays is going to win a prize. Andy Opperman just got his ticket. You get yours. Drop a Rumble Rant donation. You need to be present to enter to play at the very end of the show. But even $1 right now gets you a ticket to play at the end of the show, our little game show. The Great Grift Off, Liberty Loot Live. Quest has got his ticket. So we'll talk about the red states. We'll talk to the judge at 8 o'clock this morning. And then we're going to talk about the, how essentially the conservatives are tussling back in the culture war. And you can see the results politically as well. You're seeing, Trump's popularity ratings going up. You can see the effect that culture has on our political processes. And I can tell you, I have been in this fight for limited government now for almost 20 years of my career. I voluntarily stepped into this arena, right? And it's like a kumite match. You get punched in the face a lot when you first start, but then you start to learn the rules of the game. And I've had so many fights and debates and arguments with people who are of my same ideological ilk over the concept of the culture war and what value it is to our liberties. And I am so much more convinced now even than I ever was. There was a time when I didn't know. There was a time when I debated that. There's a time when I was not sure and when I was not as confident as I am now. But I can say with the utmost confidence, after 17 years of doing this, that many of the biggest victories don't necessarily come through the ballot box. They're coming in the ticket box, the movie box. It's happening on YouTube. It's happening on Rumble. It's happening on the social media platforms where we can have some extent of free speech, like on X. I think you still get busted if you say some racial slurs. Pretty sure. I don't say racial slurs very often, but somebody over at the Grift Shop decided to get a ticket to the game, and they bought some Revere's Rebel Roast. Well, good for you. You're gonna love that stuff, and you're gonna come back, and then you're gonna have it on order on a monthly basis because you can do that. You can even order. We got some addicts. We got caffeine addicts, and we've got I think one guy who gets it every 2 weeks. I could be wrong. But at least we did for a little while. But most everybody else usually gets it once a month. We got some people. I mean, I got my friend Kathy Jo Lloyd down in Springfield. She loves our coffee so stinking much. Their family, they cannot have it. And they're like super patriot couple. She's a state representative, just a lovely conservative couple here in Missouri. They're now Liberty conservatives. Do you want to know why? This guy. I know how to fight for liberty on the local level. But it's the cultural battles that we're winning. It's happening here in places where you would not expect. You would think that the most important things in the fight for our liberty or the freedom from tyranny are happening within the halls of our state capitals and happening in the halls of our national capital. But it's really not. The biggest battles are being won for the hearts and minds. And not all of these battles are being won for the good guys. There are lots of cultural battles that are being won by the authoritarians, the leftist, socialist, statists. There are big, big victories that are happening all the time for them. But for people like us who truly believe in the dignity of the individual, not the greatest minority of all, as Ayn Rand said, the individual, there are some victories that are happening. And you know what's sad is that not all of the victories that people like ourselves who are liberty lovers, not all of the victories that we're winning are happening because of us. As a matter of fact, one of the most disappointing truths that I've discovered lately is that Donald Trump has done more libertarian shit than I think any libertarian in the last 75 years. Womp womp. And he's not one of us. So that's what I mean when I say that many of the victories that people like us are having, I'm ripping on myself here, are happening in spite of us, not due to us, not due to our actions, not doing anything that we're trying, but because as I said before the election, when I told people I'm voting for Donald Trump and you should too, you're going to win whether you like it or not. You're going to get dragged into winning. And libertarians are getting dragged into winning. They're all fighting because of Thomas Massie in this fight. They're all fighting. They're ripping the hell out of Donald Trump. They're cursing me for supporting Donald Trump. I very clearly support Donald Trump and Thomas Massie. I can have two thoughts at once. I can think how I want to think. No, you must choose. You must choose. No, I don't. I don't have to choose. I'm going to choose what is true and right and correct. Booty Sweat says, hit the gym and make it into work at 8. Hell yeah, Booty Sweat. First of all, great name. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. You are freaking welcome here, and I hope you will come back. So, Booty Sweat, hit the follow button over on chat. Everybody loves Booty Sweat. Or not. The name's good, but I don't think... I'm working out tonight. Tonight's fight night, karate night. How many are coming to karate tonight? Andy? Amy J. Easley, T-Mill 22. Adult class starts tonight, 6:30 p.m. It's 1 hour, although I must warn you, and I probably shouldn't tell you this because I don't want to scare you away, but we do have a young man who is going to be taking his belt test tonight, which means that the workout that we're going to do tonight, and it's the last class of the session, is going to be redonkulous. You're going to be in a lot of pain tomorrow. I know what you're saying. But it's not like you have to go as hard as all the other people. It's just that we're going to go fast tonight, and we're going to really get a strong workout. But you get to see the kids doing this one kid, he's going to be going to his brown belts. So it's going to be a great test, and I'm really looking forward to him. He's a great kid, and he's really conquered a lot of challenges in his life. God, I really love doing, it's not really community service. They pay me dollars, but they pay me dozens of dollars. But you get to work with a lot of people through the Parks and Rec department that you wouldn't meet otherwise. I have learned so much from becoming a teacher that I would never learned when I was a student. It's an incredible experience. And I know many of you are near Jefferson City, so it would be great if at some point some of you came out Wednesday night, 6:30 p.m. The new session is starting for you to sign up. So it's best to sign up early because then you can get a little discount. But if you call Jefferson City Parks and Rec at the link, they will set it up. If you try and go to their website because you're afraid of talking to human beings, get on the phone because the website's confusing. So just go get on the phone and call Jefferson City link and tell them you want to take karate with Austin Peterson because he's a badass. Beware, I will turn you all into ninjas. Kids' classes are at 5:30. So let's talk about this glorious, chaotic, utterly predictable disaster known as the 2025 shutdown. So flights are delayed. Parks are closed. Federal workers aren't getting paid. Oh, no. How will we survive without the Department of Redundancy department? And don't know. And Trump is just dominating the airwaves with this. He's got it down. I've never seen him. Remember how unsharp Biden was? Trump is just the opposite of that. He's sharp all the time, always, and he never sleeps.
I'd love to meet with them. I just want them to open up the country first. The country is so hot right now. And they've never voted against, continuation. They've never voted against. They've never done that. They're doing this because they have Trump derangement syndrome. But I would like to meet with both of them. But I set one little caveat. I will only meet if they let the country open. They have to let the country open. The people want to go back to work. They want to be served. They want.
Now, let's not confuse our country with our government now, Mr. President. Wait a minute.
They need the services of some people, and a lot of people need the money, the payroll. So I'll do it as soon as they open up the country. I'd like to meet. I'd love to meet.
There you go. He's just so solid. He's not even crazy. He's not like, oh, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. This is a man who seems to understand there's a difference between campaigning and governing, and he's governing here. And when he said that they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, he was campaigning. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. But then what does that explain the Harry Sisson video that he dropped the other day where he was dropping turds from his jet onto Harry Sisson's head, the AI videos? White House isn't playing around when it comes to AI. And they're not playing around when it comes to rebuilding the White House. They've got the ladies in the View up in a tizzy.
To tell you, that's a wonderful welcome, but you're not going to like what we're about to tell you. Because you know who is still bulldozing ahead with building a White House ballroom that no one voted for, no one asked for, and once again, it's promises made and promises broken. Take a look.
It won't interfere with the current building. It'll be near it, but not touching it, and pays total respect to the existing building, which I'm the biggest fan of. It's my favorite. Right behind us, we're building a ballroom. They've wanted a ballroom for 150 years, and I'm giving that honor to this wonderful place. Right on the other side, you have a lot of construction going on, which you might hear periodically. You're going to see a ballroom the likes of which I don't think it'll be topped.
Okay. Okay. That is not your building. You
Correct.
don't own that building. That would be like me going over to Trump Tower and saying I'm going to build a disco. They've wanted a disco in Trump Tower for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And so, come on, man. You don't own that building. That is the people's building. You don't own it.
Let's sing it. What?
You don't own it. You cannot take it down. You don't own it.
Suburban Dad Core says, AP, you're a better man than me watching The View for clips. What do you guys think about the ballroom on the White House? Like, on one hand, I think that Donald Trump's taste and what the White House itself is meant to be are not always in alignment. Donald Trump likes to add all these gold ornaments and things to the walls and make it ostentatious and what he considers beautiful. And in certain contexts, I also can see the beauty in gold and the majesty of gold rooms, beautiful rooms. Like, if Trump wants to live in that kind of environment, I think that's great. He can afford it. Fine. It's fine with me. I'm not jealous of people who live in homes that are adorned in gold. But I think for me personally, I prefer something a little more cozy, a little bit more, I don't know, not humble or perhaps maybe the subtle is the word that I'm looking for. Subtle, beautiful woods, not overly ostentatious. And I guess even if I had all of the money that Donald Trump if I had the money that Donald Trump have, I don't know how I would live. I have no concept of would I want to have gold things on my walls. Maybe my taste would change. But when it comes to the White House, I typically think of it as something more traditional. However, here's what I'm thinking. Like, this is where I'm going with this, and I don't have a strong position. But I think I like the idea of a ballroom attached or not attached, as he says, to the White House. Because if it really is the people's house, then I think it's nice for it to have a wedding venue, because traditional homes back in the day, that's where people would get married. They would have ceremonies. It wasn't always in the church. And if it wasn't in the church or if it wasn't outside somewhere, then people would have weddings and ceremonies and things like that in their home. If you were lucky enough to have a home that could afford a whole ballroom for your parties, then great. Be all the more for it. And wouldn't it be nice if people who were living or attached to the president or the vice president or the senior staff, if they could have their wedding venues there, I think that would be something fun. Maybe it could even bring in a little bit of a revenue. How about the government makes money instead of loses money? You know what I'm saying? Like we're doing with this shutdown. At least we're losing employees too. So this is the second longest shutdown in U.S. history. Over 900,000 federal employees are furloughed and another 700,000 who are still showing up to work without pay. And that means 1.6 million people are now experiencing what the private sector calls Tuesday. White House should have a better gym. President needs to be able to bench 225 at least. Oh boy. Maybe when I ran for president, I could do that. But here's the punchline, guys. Most Americans haven't even noticed. The Department of Education, who gives a shit? The IRS, radio silence. Nobody cares. Department of Energy, half the folks who work there wouldn't notice if it shut down permanently. Let's go deeper. The shutdown is costing the economy $15 billion per week, according to the Congressional Budget Office. The media's freaking out, but I'm like, how is that possible? I thought, aren't we told every year government stimulates the economy? Oh. Well, apparently not spending is now spending. And when the feds don't spend your money, the GDP suffers. Here's the problem. Inefficient, bloated government spending is so embedded in our economy. When we stop wasting money, the economy hiccups. That's not a bug. That's the code screaming for an update. Update me, fix me, patch me. 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.11. Windows 3.1. Now we got AOL. Now there's CDs all over my house for free subscriptions. Zoom in here for a second. And this is one of the juiciest parts of this whole mess. I call this the deep state lotto. Who still gets paid during the shutdown and who doesn't? So let's start with the winners of the deep state Powerball here. Members of Congress. Oh, they're getting paid. Of course they're getting paid. Of course they're getting paid. Congress are still getting paid. The Constitution says so. And sure, I think a few have said that they'll donate it or they won't accept it. But don't worry, guys. They'll still have the best haircuts on Capitol Hill. Supreme Court justices, federal judges, full checks every 2 weeks. Must be nice to be untouchable. Political appointees confirmed by the Senate. Yes. Their direct deposits are still working. That includes all your favorite czars, diversity consultants, and climate prophets. Afuera! Mm-hmm. So, and get this, roughly 830,000 federal workers are still getting paid because their funding doesn't come from appropriations. Instead, it flows from spending monsters like the Inflation Reduction Act, user fees, and other bureaucratic black holes where our money goes to die. But here's an interesting twist, though. Trump stepped in to make sure the military got paid at least once. The Pentagon reallocated $8 billion in R&D funds to cover the October 15th payroll. But that money runs out at the end of this month, and time's a ticking. So we'll see if the troops get a Halloween treat or if they get a Halloween trick. So FBI special agents getting paid. 70,000 law enforcement staff at DHS paid. The politicians and the princes, they always make sure that the Praetorian Guard is getting paid. You know what I'm saying? If China nukes a few cities and Congress goes to that, what's the name of that mountain that they built to hide themselves and their families so that they can start over while the rest of us die in the radioactive wasteland? In the Civil War that outbreaks. What is it called? Does anybody know what the name of that is? Is this the first time you've heard of this? There's a special compound that they have for Congress, senior staff, their families to go away to. It's like a nuclear missile silo for Congress. Is it which mountain, Thormock? Weather Mountain. That's it, Barney. Barney, see, there's my fellow paranoid. They're going to overthrow the Constitution and rewrite it at Weather Mountain. Remember Ruby Ridge and Waco? That was some bullshit, Janet Reno. So Trump steps in to make sure that the military gets paid. FBI special agent, law enforcement staff, they're getting paid. ICE, CBP, Secret Service. Oh, you know the Secret Service is getting paid. Imagine it being like, Mr. President, I wasn't getting paid. Mr. President, could you please open the government? He's like, listen, man, it's Hakeem Jeffries. He needs to come and talk to me. According to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, national security is non-negotiable, so they're still paying. It's just such a joke in so many ways. We're so close to the bonus content. What are you guys doing over there? Like the last couple of days, you guys have been crazy generous. Is it me? Am I really that good? I'm really grateful for all the financial contributions, guys. It's huge. It keeps the Wake Up America show going strong, and it keeps us growing. And we are growing. We've got a brand new show coming soon, Cafecito Libre. We're going to capture that Latin American market with our friend Maylene Salavarria. She's going to have her own show, and it's going to be bilingual, and it's going to be very spicy, and it's going to be very fun. You guys are going to love her. If you haven't seen her yet, check her out on X. Maylene Salavarria will be joining the For Liberty Network this Christmas. It's your glasses. So let's talk about who doesn't get paid. These are the losers in the bureaucratic food chain here, the bottom of the rung. 730,000 federal workers are on the job with no pay, so they're working. Another 670,000 are furloughed completely. So 1.4 million Americans are stuck in limbo watching their bank accounts drain while the bureaucrats are bickering over this pork barrel spending. The IRS tried to keep all 74,000 of their employees on the payroll using Biden's slush fund. But then a week later, they gave up and they furloughed half the staff. Even the tax man isn't safe. God bless America. Senate staffers, no paycheck on October 20th. Judicial branch, out of cash. Essential staff are working without pay. Others are furloughed. So much for equal justice under the law. And here's the kicker, guys. Congress passed a law in 2019 that mandates back pay once the shutdown ends. But now the White House is floating the idea. I voted for this. Maybe the law doesn't apply to furloughed employees. The devil is inside of me. Frickety just donated $1 for the game. Of course, anybody can play. It's $1. Sometimes I even give free entries if you're nice to me. Click the like button. Follow the show. We've got a freaking amazing program. And at the end of the program, somebody's going to win a nice prize. Well, actually, everybody who plays is going to win something. But it's the great Grift Off, Liberty Loot Live. At the end of the show, if we unlock it, which we're like $2 away from, everybody who contributed this morning financially is going to get an entry to play the game. You play it on your mobile phone at home. We give you the code after you text us and say, I want to play. 573-319-1586. We'll give you that code closer to the end of the show today, which incentivizes you to stay in the show today, which incentivizes you to play the game, which incentivizes you to contribute, which incentivizes me. It's capitalism. Win. Everybody wins. Win, 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 win. Good morning. Happy hump day. John and Casey, don't get any ideas. Mrs. Peterson has already been taken care of. And I'm straight as an arrow. But the girls yesterday from Red, White, and Bi were trying to convince me that everybody's a little bit bi. I was like, Ashley and Hannah, everybody's a little bi. I kissed a girl and I liked it. Taste of my cherry chapstick. So Congress passed a law. They mandated back pay, but now the White House is floating that doesn't apply to furloughed employees. The same bureaucrats who guaranteed back pay are now saying, yeah, about that. So if you're a federal contractor working security, cleaning, or cafe services, you're out of a job and you're not guaranteed anything. Zero, zilch, no back pay, no restitution, just a polite and a government-issued pamphlet about resilience. Don't trust the feds. Should have never trust the feds. They just did not pay attention in class. Erd's mommy says, I am not bi. Oh, that's what somebody who is bi would say. Sounds like something somebody who was, but sounds like denial. So if you're still wondering whether this shutdown matters, guys, ask yourself this. Why is it that lawmakers, judges, the political elites, they never miss a paycheck, but the folks that are actually delivering mail, guarding buildings, cleaning these buildings, or running airport security are left holding the bag? Because the system was never meant to serve you. It was built to serve itself and make us foot the bill. So let's say it plain. We can't function without the federal government. Yes, we can. You can. You know why? Because guess who's still functioning? Texas is still drilling oil. Florida still attracting the creation of new businesses. South Dakota still balancing budgets. Red states are proving that life goes on and goes better without a bloated nanny state breathing down your neck. This isn't about budgets. This is about control. The Biden administration wants to keep the pressure on. The Trump administration wants to keep the pressure on so that we can get through this with a minimum of pain and suffering, trimming the government down. Russ Vought from the Office of Management Budget has been the mensch, the Ubermensch on this one. Be careful with that Ubermensch, Austin. You know what that is in reference to? It's Friedrich Nietzsche. Proto-Nazi? No. So here's the thing, guys. We can survive without big government, but here's where the GOP does have to stop fumbling the ball. Instead of running from the scared from the shutdown narrative, they have to own it. I have to own it because it's so popular right now. We're shutting this down because the American people deserve a government that can live within its means. Boom, done. Tie it to the deficit, tie it to inflation, tie it to the gas prices, and make the case that fiscal responsibility isn't an option, right? It's urgent. And if they're smart, they'll control the chaos with what's coming up next in my show. Texas, Mississippi, South Carolina, red states rising. Growing faster than the feds can print excuses. We're going to talk this morning about GDP growth, tax policy wins, and why conservative governance is winning in the real world, even as DC burns through your kids' future. But first, I want to hear from you. Send us a rant. We've got $2 raised. I've been griped. Send us a Rumble rant. We've got $2 left to raise the bonus content. I forgot to grab my water, so I need a break anyway. And I don't want to play commercials for you guys. So just somebody drop a couple bucks in the tip jar. That will hit the $100 level. I'll play the mini documentary for you. And that means that we've unlocked the game, the Great Grift Off, Liberty Loot Live at the end of the show today. Everybody who contributes gets a ticket to play the game, and you'll be able to play it on your mobile phone. You'll just go to our website, and we'll give you the code. Have you already contributed? Oh, Steelbringer, there it is. He did it. Thank you, Joel. You get a code at the end of the show to play Liberty Loot Live. 573-319-1586 is the text line. So everybody who's contributed, make sure you text that phone line and say, I want to play. Let us know what your name is in the chat so that Brad can confirm it, and we'll send you a code at the end of the show. Enjoy the bonus content. I'll be right back with a big thing of water. I'm dry as hell here. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. In April, as President Donald Trump announced his so-called Liberation Day tariffs that would target imports of nearly all goods sourced from friend and foe alike, one of the biggest cheerleaders for trade protectionism took a victory lap. Those new tariffs confirm the end of the disastrous World Trade Organization era and lay the groundwork for a new set of arrangements in the international economy that prioritize the national interest and the flourishing of the nation's working families, wrote Orrin Cass, the former Mitt Romney advisor who now runs American Compass. A week later, during an interview with 2 reporters from Vox, Cass was asked whether the Trump administration was making an error by imposing a global tariff on all imports, including shirts and screws and picture frames and bicycles, instead of focusing on critical items like semiconductors. I think a global tariff is the right way to do things, Cass said. It's a very simple, broad policy that conveys a value that we see in domestic production. That is, more or less, the view that the White House adopted during the first year of Trump's second term. Making stuff in America matters, and the best way to encourage more production in America is to make it more expensive to import anything made somewhere. Of course, there are 2 major flaws with that logic. First, there are things that can't be made in America, or can't be made here in sufficient quantities to satisfy Americans' demand.
coffee, chocolate, bananas, and many other agricultural products, for example. Second, making things in America often requires importing raw materials or intermediate goods. More than 50% of all American imports are unfinished goods that are used to make other things, from cars to houses to industrial pumping equipment and chocolate bars. If all those materials are suddenly more expensive, it becomes harder, not easier, to manufacture more things here. Economists and other experts in business, manufacturing, and logistics were warning about those problems even before Trump's April announcement. But the White House's top economic advisors and protectionism fans like Cass dismissed those worries and promised that central planning would be better for everyone. In October, Cass wrote in The Atlantic that Trump's global tariffs takes the right approach to addressing globalization's failures. He dismissed tariff critics as unpatriotic nerds who don't believe that manufacturing things domestically matters. For a deep and thorough rebuttal of those claims, check out this response, crafted by two trade experts at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Yet the evidence is now becoming overwhelming. The economists knew what they were talking about. The manufacturing sector has dipped into a recession this year, as executives have reported higher input prices, fewer new orders, and declining employment, all of which could be attributed to the sudden tariff hikes imposed earlier this year. Meanwhile, surveys of business owners have found very little support for tariffs, while most say Trump's trade policies are increasing uncertainty and raising costs. Consumers have been hit with one of the biggest tax increases in American history. Retail prices, which had been falling steadily since the pandemic, began increasing earlier this year as businesses passed along tariff costs, according to the Harvard Business School. Overall, businesses have faced $1.2 trillion in tariff costs this year, and consumers have paid most of that, according to one estimate from S&P Global. So much for the flourishing of the nation's working families. Reality may finally be puncturing these tariff-induced delusions. The Wall Street Journal reported this weekend that the White House is tiptoeing away from hostility to foreign trade and looking at ways to ease tariffs on goods that aren't produced in the United States. The administration recently issued a new set of temporary tariff exemptions for car parts that will provide automakers with some relief until 2030, and the White House has granted new authority to the Commerce Department and U.S. Trade Representative to exempt products from tariffs without a direct order from the president. As the Journal notes, all of that is a significant retreat from the no exemptions, no exceptions position that the White House had previously staked out. And now Cass seems to be reconsidering some of his support for the administration's universal tariffs too. In an essay published last week by Foreign Affairs, Cass wrote that Trump's trade agenda has appeared haphazard, and confronting all countries suddenly, simultaneously, and harshly has needlessly antagonized allies and heightened uncertainty. He specifically singled out the administration's tariffs on India as an example of how it has been difficult to discern the logic behind some of Trump's tariff maneuvers. That is a long way from a rejection of the White House's agenda, of course, or an admission that the tariffs have failed to achieve their primary policy aims. Still, it represents a clear, if subtle, break, a tiptoeing away, to borrow the Journal's phrase, from his support for global tariffs that definitionally require confronting all countries simultaneously. These are welcome signals, no doubt, even though it would be shocking to see either Trump or Cass fully embrace the recognition that tariffs are more costly than beneficial. The global trade war that has defined much of Trump's second-term agenda is not over yet, but the cracks in that policy are now becoming too obvious for even the most hardened tariff advocates to ignore. Maybe the economists knew what they were talking about after all.
Mr. President, a new poll shows that if Curtis Sliwa dropped out of the New York mayoral race, then Andrew Cuomo would only trail Mamdani by 4 points. Would you call Curtis Sliwa to drop out of the race so that can happen?
Well, I looked at the polls, and looks like we're going to have a communist as the mayor of New York. It'll be very interesting. But here's the good news. He's got to go through the White House. Everything goes through the White House, at least this White House it does. And we'll have to see what happens. But if he dropped out, he's not going to win. And not looking too good for Cuomo either. But maybe, I don't know, if he dropped out, maybe Cuomo would have a little bit of a chance, but not much. Because it looks like the lead is It's not a great lead, but it's big enough that he should be able to win. So, I don't know that I want to get involved. It's really a question of, would I rather have a Democrat or a communist? And I would rather have a Democrat than a communist.
Will you meet with Mamdani if he wins?
Yeah, I'll speak to him.
Mr. President,
I have an obligation to speak to him, but I love New York. I've always loved New York. I just can't believe a thing like this is happening. I left New York, and we had a mayor, de Blasio, who was a disaster. But when I left, it was sort of before he could really take hold. And boy, New York was a hot city, and now it's sad to see what's happening, frankly.
It really is.
With the communists in charge, look, you just go back 1,000 years. I mean, it's been done many times. 1,000 years, it's never worked once.
Get out of the blue states. Get out of the blue states. What are you doing there? Good morning, pineapples. Looking very good and very nice. We're glad and thankful to have you here. If you haven't already, please click the like button. Follow as well. Did you know that this show is 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time? I'd be grateful if you were to add us to your daily routine. You'll be grateful if you add us to your daily routine. What's in it for you, huh? You get a lot. You're going to be informed. You're going to laugh. You're going to cry. You're going to lust. Maybe a little bit. It just kind of depends on what you're into. There's a little bit of everything on the Wake Up America show. We call ourselves the Pineapple Crew. Don't ask, don't tell. I'm AP. They call me AP for Liberty. Judge Napolitano will be joining us here in about 10 minutes. Red states are rising, though. Conservative America is thriving amidst this shutdown. Red states are not just surviving, they are thriving. According to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, not exactly a MAGA think tank here, real GDP increased in 48 states in the second quarter of this year. Now, that's great on its face, but let's zoom in here. North Dakota led the pack, 7.3% surge in GDP. That's oil. That's energy policy done right. And that is what happens when you don't regulate your state into oblivion. We could all be rich. Except for the people who are trying to just steal everybody's riches. Well, maybe that's wrong. They can, even the people who leech off of us and steal from us could be richer. Because a lot of that's going to waste, fraud, corruption, graft. Don't forget everybody who made a contribution this morning financially or who went to the shop and made a purchase. All of you are eligible to play our game, The Great Grift Off, Liberty Loot Live, at the end of the show today at 8 a.m. Central Time. So make sure you text the phone line, say, let's play, and you'll get your room code so that you can play with us at the end of the show. So Texas, under Greg Abbott, juggernaut. Job growth, low taxes, booming tech, manufacturing. Here's something that you're not going to hear on CNN. Texas alone accounted for over 17% of all new job creation in the country last year. Everything's bigger in Texas. Mississippi, shockingly enough, second fastest growing economy in 2024, according to Fox News. They've been slashing taxes, cutting red tape, and focusing on pro-business policies. Governor Tate Reeves said, "We cut taxes and the economy took off." Well, no shit. No shit. It's Javier Milei takes over Argentina and their economy starts cooking. But what about that 20 billion? Oh, I heard it was 40. We are watching Javier Milei of Argentina with anxiety, nervous anxiety with the upcoming elections. Wish him the best. I believe today is also Javier Milei's birthday. So if you are a fan of the Latin American liberty-loving president of Argentina, then make sure that you guys tweet at Javier Milei today. And just FYI, in case you were thinking about doing some shopping, we've got a 20% off automatic discount on all of our Javier Milei merchandise. It's automatic, so if there's something in the Javier Milei shop that you've been wanting to get, like we've got these awesome Lion of Liberty yellow bomber jackets, yellow and black bomber jackets. They've got the Gadsden snake on the front. So beautiful. You can get those at forlibertyshop.com. The Javier Milei collection is a 20% automatic discounts for the next few days. So his election's on the 26th. And I say him, but it's really his political party. But it matters on him getting his agenda across. So At 10:26, today's the 22nd, that's when the sale ends. It's a way to sort of celebrate, get more people excited about Javier Milei. So check out the gift shop this morning at forlibertyshop.com. Check out the Javier Milei collection while you're there, and everything is 20% off the Javier Milei collection to celebrate. Today's his birthday. Happy birthday, Javier Milei. Good luck to the Libertad Avanza party. Since we're for America First, let's hit it. So red state blueprint, here it is. Lower taxes, check. Fewer regulations, check, check. Respect for property rights, check, check, check. Local governance, check, 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 check. Energy independence, check, 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 check. And cultural confidence, check, 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 check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the red state formula. This is not magic. It's not even ideology. This is just common sense. All right. And contrast this with the blue states. Let's look at California. Dystopia, rolling blackouts, fires, tent cities, $7 gas. New York, bleeding population, crushing taxes, communists taking over the cities. Crime so bad, people are commuting with bodyguards. Illinois, it's basically Gotham without Bathman. Even a Bathman would be preferable to nothing. If you can't have a Batman, is the hero that you deserve a Chicago Bathman. I need that soundtrack where it's like the Jurassic Park thing, but it's played with a crappily on a flute. I think I'm even better than the flute. Okay, guys, Judge Napolitano is going to be talking. He's going to talk about blowing up those Venezuela drug boats. He says Trump doesn't have the constitutional authority to execute people without trial. Where would he get that idea? And we're also going to talk to the judge. As an Italian, how does he feel about eliminating majority-minority districts? What do you think? Don't go away. What is this music, Austin? You come to me in the day of my wedding. You do not even call me judge. All rise when we get back. Judge Andrew Napolitano, it's the Wake Up America show. Have a nice gabagool. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government. Get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to a...
When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Your financial contributions, guys, are just over the top. You're so generous, and I can't thank you enough. It really means a lot to our family. I saw all of those donations that were coming in during the break, and I don't know where you guys are getting it from, but I just want to say thank you. Looks like you must live in red states. We were just talking about how the GDP growth in some of these red states, from the deregulation, the tax cuts, common sense policies. People say libertarianism are these radical ideologies, but to me, it just makes sense. That's how I got attracted to intellectual personalities like Congressman Ron Paul and Murray Rothbard and Friedrich Hayek. And one of my greatest inspirations, who I had the pleasure of working with, he is such a bright, intelligent, constitutional libertarian that I devoted my life to serving him for 2 wonderful years in New York City, and who I had the pleasure of getting to know personally. His name is Judge Andrew Napolitano. We all rise out of great respect for a man who helped me build my career and made me the man I am today. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Austin. Thank you yet again for an over-the-top and generous introduction. Those were 2 very happy years for both of us.
Thank you, Judge. Times sure have changed. We now find ourselves in such an odd arrangement where it seems as if Democrats control nearly every major institution except for the White House, except for the Supreme Court, and slightly the Republicans have a little bit of a majority in the Congress. But what we're faced with now, Judge, is a president who has been so empowered over decades and decades and decades, and a Congress that is so neutered, self-neutered, that the president can just seemingly assassinate, blow up boats that he deems to be drug boats coming from any country he wishes, and most people don't bat an eye. Congress sure has not batted an eye. Where does the president get this authority?
Well, he doesn't get it from the Constitution. It's an absolutely unlawful, criminal, unconstitutional act. Now he has a serious headache on his hands because his boy, Pete Hegseth, and his guys failed to kill everybody. Now, that may sound a little gruesome, but without a living plaintiff, there can be no cause of action. And as a result of the destruction of a boat and 2 survivors who were then kidnapped by the Navy and then released 2 days later, these people, if they want, without leaving their home countries, can bring a civil rights action against the federal government and the president and Hegseth personally for the use of government power to attempt to murder them and to kidnap them. That, of course, will finally put the president's passion for killing people squarely in front of a federal court. But absent that, when everybody who's harmed is dead, there really can be no cause of action. The other course of action would be a criminal one, but obviously that can't happen until Trump is out of office and a administration with a different mindset is in there. But the concept of killing someone because you think they're committing a crime or they may commit a crime, 1,500 miles from the United States, is absolutely antithetical, not only to the values articulated in the Declaration of Independence, but to the very language of the Fifth Amendment, which requires due process, meaning a fair trial for all persons, not all Americans. And even the Nazi saboteurs, Nazi soldiers who landed in Long Island and Florida and attempted to sabotage American munitions plants. They didn't succeed. They didn't kill anybody. They were entitled to due process before they were executed.
Part of the strengths of your convictions on this comes from the fact that there shouldn't even be a war on drugs at all.
Well, I thought of you when I was writing this. There's one word there that's rather intriguing, and this is an Austin Peterson word, in which I summarize the president's argument as saying he wants to prevent the delivery of drugs to their willing American purchasers. You own your own body. You can cut off your penis and have somebody replace it with a vagina. In this crazy world we live in, you can certainly take whatever drug you want.
Judge, I don't ever think I would have thought I would have heard those words coming out of your mouth. We do call this big brain time, however, so I am going to elevate the dialogue back up here, up a notch here, because in a perfect world, Judge, in our libertarian utopia, if you will, or at least maybe if it's not a perfect world, as close as we could get in a situation, we wouldn't even have to have the president blowing up drug boats because these drugs would be manufactured here domestically, but they would only be granted to adults because, as we spoke a few weeks ago, I told you about these people the anarchists of the Libertarian Party, who had booed me for suggesting that there should be written laws, code, preventing the transfer of these dangerous materials to minors. So is that what you want to see, Judge? You want to see these drugs made here? They're made safely in laboratories. They're given to consenting adults under the conditions that they don't transfer them to minors. Is that the correct position?
Just like alcohol. The Supreme Court has just agreed to take up a gun rights case involving a law that was written in the 1800s prohibiting people who use drugs from carrying guns. Well, the same law prohibited ex-slaves and Catholics from carrying guns. You can imagine the mindset of the people that have voted for this law. So let me get this straight. You can be drunk on a Friday night but carry a gun on Saturday morning, but you can't smoke marijuana on a Friday night and carry a gun on a Saturday morning. That's the argument that's going to be before the Supreme Court. I mention this because our friend Justice Gorsuch, who's totally devoted to the natural law, is, like you and I, a believer that you, in the truism that you own your own body. So now getting back to your question, the short answer is yes. There would be no war on drugs. There would be no speedboat killing. There would be no, now I'm going to use the president's phrase, this is a political phrase, not a legal one, so it's not clear what this means. There would be no narco-terrorists if you could put whatever you want into your body. I was forced to sentence people, one guy, I think, 15 years in state prison. Now, this is 25 years ago. I would imagine he's out now. For something that today is perfectly legal. The sale of marijuana, perfectly legal. I didn't sentence him to that, and the appellate court, the government appealed, as they always did. They didn't like what I did. The appellate court reversed me, told me to resentence the guy, and if I didn't sentence him the way they wanted, they would just send it to the judge next door who would sentence him the way they wanted. So the only thing you can get out of it is blasting the government, blasting their Victorian laws, and sentence him according to the laws. But that's where we are today. These very acts that Trump claims he's preventing from happening could very well be lawful tomorrow. They're certainly natural, because under the natural law, you can do what you want to your own body. Not your children, not your spouse, but your own body.
Judge, what was your come to Jesus moment? How did you go from a young man at Princeton with a Bomb Hanoi t-shirt to a radical, constitutional, minarcho-anarcho-capitalist that you are today? Was there one moment in your life? Was it when you began to serve and in public service? Was it the moment that undercover police officer tried to sell you drugs in order to try and bust you or perhaps extort you? What was there a come to Jesus moment, or was it a gradual, weakening of authoritarian impulses, or was it a book? Was it Ayn Rand? What was your sort of from your road to Damascus that you came to
it
accept?
Probably was my early days on the bench. That incident where the undercover officer approached me was well after I left the bench. I don't need to recount it, but he just approached me in a park in New York City. I really told him what he could go do with himself, and then he showed me his badge and ran away before I could write down the number of the badge. I called up the police commissioner, who was a friend of mine, and said, well, we have no record of this. I said, well, of course there's no record of it. I was appalled at what the police did in order to acquire evidence, and what the arguments were that the government made to justify it. I would frequently look at these young assistant prosecutors and say, where did you study the Constitution? Is there a hole in your copy of the Constitution where the Fourth Amendment is supposed to be? The works that influenced me, I'll tell you a funny story. When I came home from Princeton as a freshman at Thanksgiving times, this is the first time I've been home since August, and I fell asleep in my childhood bed in my childhood bedroom, which had been my bed 4 months before when I was a senior in high school, reading a book. And when my mother came to wake me up, the book was on my chest. The book was called The Virtue of Selfishness by Ayn Rand. My mother goes, that's it. You're going to Rutgers. We're getting you out of Princeton. Who's ever heard of a book like this?
Quite a radical, quite a revolutionary tome and concept.
Yes.
She really changed my mind as well. It was her that I first came into contact with that discovered my libertarianism, but it was Ron Paul that finally had me give up my life to activism, because there comes a time in your life when you determine the truth, and then once you find out what the truth is, Judge, there are many people who believe how we believe, Judge, but they don't act like libertarians because libertarianism is not popular. It's not popular to do what Thomas Massey and Rand Paul do. It's not popular to say those things. It's not popular to go against Trump. And don't get me wrong, I do think that libertarians make a lot of tactical and practical mistakes, maybe make enemies that we shouldn't be making. A lot of times when we should be more diplomatic, it's in our nature. We're very confrontational and very willing to disagree with people, whereas a lot of people are agreeable. They'd rather go along to get along, Judge. But there are some wins that are happening for liberty, sometimes despite the behavior or the actions of libertarians. And one of these might just come from the Supreme Court. I've been following this story about the racial gerrymandering question and the redistricting and the very meaning of equal protection. This, to me, would be earth-shattering, and it would change the electoral map for decades and decades, potentially. Can you talk to us, Judge, a little bit about what's at stake with this case that the Supreme Court is hearing?
Well, the Voting Rights Act of 1967, which is a rare federal statute that does not apply nationwide. It only applies in certain southern states, which, in the opinion of the Justice Department in 1967, had engaged in intentional discrimination forces the state legislatures of those states to craft districts called majority minority, meaning the majority of the district is populated by members of a racial minority. It's a way to assure that African Americans have a voice in the Congress by crafting districts where it would be nearly impossible for a non-African American to run for office, or to get elected, I should say. Can always run. This, of course, is the use of race for official government policy, which theoretically was prohibited by the 14th Amendment. But as a result of this LBJ instigated legislation, one of the most disreputable human beings in American history, but he was the president of the United States, and the way the Warren Court and even the Berger Court interpreted it, the government can engage in racial gerrymandering. In fact, in some states, it must engage in racial gerrymandering. We now are confronted with an attitude on the Supreme Court referred to by the late, great Justice Scalia as originalism, which means they will view the language of the statute and the language of the Constitution and the language of the 14th Amendment as it was understood publicly by the people who ratified or voted for it. Stated differently, it will prohibit absolutely the use of race by the government. The reason I say this is happening is A, the oral argument indicates that, and B, just last year, there's a bit of disingenuous behavior here that I'll tell you about, why I'm so disrespectful of the Chief Justice, as he wrote the opinion. There's an opinion, I forget the name of it, but it involves Harvard and University of North Carolina. University of North Carolina because it's owned by the state, Harvard because it receives so much federal and state money, it is bound by the Bill of Rights, prohibiting them, and by extension, all other universities, with an exception, which is what has upset me, from using race as an instrument for admissions. So if you take the language that the justices used in oral argument, combined with what they wrote in this opinion just a year ago, it's the very same court that we have now, it's pretty clear that they're going to remove race from the government's armament. Now, the removal of race from the government's armament will result in fewer African Americans in Congress, but it will result in a purer fidelity to first principles that the Constitution has articulated. The footnote that has upset me so in the Chief Justice Roberts' opinion on the schools is this applies to every college and university in the country, except the ones owned by the federal government. What? Yep. West Point, Annapolis, Air Force Academy, Coast Guard Academy, U.S. Marine Corps, you can just discriminate away. There is no moral, legal, or constitutional basis for that exception other than this is what John Roberts thought.
Do you fear that minorities would be disenfranchised?
Yes, they will. Unless people move, let's use Reagan's phrase, they vote with their feet, and enough of them gather in central St. Louis or central Cincinnati to force the legislature to form a congressional district. That's the sad part of this. But
why is that sad, though, Judge? I mean, shouldn't it be colorblind? Essentially, isn't it good?
Correct.
Yeah,
correct. But look at what those racists in North Carolina do. That's why it's sad, because it empowers people with evil motivations. But there's nothing you can do about it. It would be worse for the government to be making decisions based on race. I once had a public back and forth with Justice Scalia on this. he was of the belief that only in an emergency situation could the government use race, like a race riot or a prison riot between races where they were just randomly going to separate whites from blacks in order to save their lives. I would agree with Scalia on that. But in terms of using race for any other purpose, that's why the 14th Amendment is there, to prevent the use of race for any official governmental purpose. It is removed from the government's armament. LBJ didn't understand that. The people that voted for it in the Congress in 67 didn't understand it. The courts that ratified it in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s didn't understand it. Now you have a totally different mindset in the court.
Justice, I was going to call you Justice Napolitano. We wish.
You've promoted me. Only Trump could do that. But if he reads what I write, forget about it.
Well, at least you're saying what you truly believe, Judge, and it's rare to hear that these days. Most people are just ass kissers trying to get close to power. But it's nice to have someone who tells the truth, no matter how bad it hurts. I don't know how much time I have left with you, Judge. I know you're always very busy there when you're in your office.
I have about 3 or 4 minutes.
Okay, great. Well, then perhaps you could catch us up on your interview that you had. You were with the Muscovites this last week, and perhaps share with us a little bit about your show and who you have coming up with your interviews. You've had a really exciting week.
I do. I was in Moscow for a week. I did 3 or 4 fascinating things. One was to be in the same room with and make eye contact with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now, there were 1,500 people in the room, but at one point I could swear he made eye contact with me. I don't think he knows anything about me, but just the way I was seated and where he was standing, we clearly made eye contact. The second very interesting thing I did was to give a lecture on the American Constitution to 450 graduate students at the School of International Diplomacy at Moscow State University. This is their most elite academic institution from which Sergei Lavrov himself is a graduate. Every one of the guys, coat and tie. Every one of the ladies, dresses. As soon as they saw my face setting foot in the room, they stood up. 5 standing ovations. Brilliant, brilliant questions after I gave about a 65 or 70-minute talk on the basics of the Constitution. These are profound questions about checks and balances and separation of power and freedom of expression. Very, very well-educated people, every one of whom is fluent in English. I was just bowled over at the reception that I received. The third interesting thing I did was to interview for 2 hours, not Sergei Lavrov, but his chief spokesperson, whom I had met before, Maria Zakharova. Her grasp of American culture and mores and of Donald Trump is simply extraordinary. So I said, how did you learn so much about Americans? And she said, well, Judge, I lived in the same neighborhood in Manhattan where you live now. I lived on the Upper East Side. Where did you buy your food? She told me the name of the supermarket. That's the same place I go to now. The Russians, unlike Americans, don't appoint political hacks to senior diplomatic posts. They appoint people extremely well educated and highly experienced in the culture and the milieu of their significant foreign counterparts. That's why we have Sergei Lavrov and Maria Zakharova, as opposed to little Marco and whoever the hell is the spokesperson.
Right. Trump uses drones to blow up his boats, but Putin commits his political assassinations using aids. So, like when he assassinated that reporter, he sent someone to shoot her in the face. And then what was the other assassination where he sent someone to poison? He used radioactive poisoning. So Trump blows up boats, and Putin likes to get personal with his killings. So I guess I'm glad he only made eye contact with you and didn't send anybody to poison your tea.
I mean, this is the nature of government, and this is the nature of unbridled government. We're supposed to have a constitution that prevents the government from being unbridled, but we have a president who has never read it, even though he took an oath to preserve, protect, and defend it. So anyway, the week
Yeah,
was fascinating. Moscow is beautiful, hustling, bustling, upscale, superb restaurants, hotels, traffic jams. It looks like Midtown Manhattan.
Polonium,
That was a
that's what it was.
fascinating time there. I was invited by RT, that's Russia Today. Their chief anchor, the guy who anchors their 6 p.m. show, used to work at Fox, Rick Sanchez.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm familiar with Russia Today. I remember when Adam Kokesh, remember Adam versus the Man, the guy who got choke slammed at the Jefferson Memorial for dancing. He used to have his show on Russia Today, but I think they shut down the DC office.
Oh, the sanctions shut down all of Russia Today here. You know how large their audience is? Their daily audience, 1 billion.
Wow.
There's no other network on the planet that comes close to that. They, of course, are just itching to return to the United States and Western Europe, but until the sanctions are removed, they can't do so.
Interesting. Fascinating. Judge, who do you have coming up on your show, Judging Freedom?
I have Aaron Mate on Gaza. I have Phil Giraldi. He's the ex-CIA agent who told George W. Bush that Saddam Hussein doesn't have any weapons of mass destruction, and Bush threw him out, went on cameras and lied to the American public. And I have the great Professor Jeffrey Sachs. Sachs is weighing in on the kerfuffles between Lavrov and Rubio, and also on what is Netanyahu up to next. We have quotes from Israeli generals saying, we're going to foment false flags just so the IDF can resume its genocide.
What is this, Operation Northwoods? Judge Andrew Napolitano, host of Judging Freedom.
This is all publicly available statements. These are generals talking when they didn't know microphones were on.
That's why Kennedy.
Operation Northwood, of course, for your listeners, refers to a suggestion put to JFK in 1962 about the U.S. military killing people in Miami and pretending it was done by Cubans so as to justify an invasion of Cuba.
JFK, after he read that, fired that member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, from what I remember from history too. So it's JFK, definitely an underrated president. Judge, thank you so much for your time today and your generosity and sharing with us your wisdom and incredible stories from your trips. I mean, it's just amazing what you're doing these days. I hope that you have a wonderful day. We look forward to having you back again next week.
Right back at you, Austin. All the best.
Thank you. You too. Don't forget to follow his show, Judging Freedom. Download it on any of your mobile devices. Judge Andrew Napolitano joins me here live on the Wake Up America show every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Central Time. And just like I said, it's big brain time. The judge is clearly a big thinker. He's a mover, he's a shaker, and he's moving and shaking and sharing with us his points of view here every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Central. You guys enjoy the Wake Up America show, please do click the like button. If you have only watched us today for the very first time, we'd love to have a chance to earn your follow. So click the follow button if you're enjoying this content. You'll get a notification whenever we go live. It's in your best interest to be a part of this community, because if you've ever said to yourself, you watch other shows or podcasts and you're always saying it's so black-pilled. Everybody is always so dismal. There's never anything good that's happening in the world. It's always bad. Then you really need to check out the Pineapple Chorus over here online. The Rumble chat, rumble.com/AP for Liberty, where everybody hangs out. People like T-Mill22, Relaxia McGroin, Drew Van Runkle, Joni Rankin. And about 30 minutes from now, we're all going to play a really fun game together. Everybody at home can play on their mobile devices if you've made a contribution to the show this morning. So if you went to the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com, we just call it that because it's funny. But it's really forlibertyshop.com. If you made a purchase at forlibertyshop.com this morning, then you guys are already entered to win. You just need to get your ticket. So you have to text the show at the show line. Any purchase that you make at forlibertyshop.com this morning during the live show goes to unlock the bonus content. We do run Judge Napolitano's collection, so that stuff is good. We've also got the Javier MLA collection that's 20% off. And our boys, Walton and Johnson, Kenny Webster down in Texas, we run their merch as well. Charlie Kirk's Freedom shirt, Simply Freedom shirt, is available. And all of the profits for that one go to Turning Point USA. So you can actually give back to the community a little bit. If you go to forlibertyshop.com, you'll get a free entry to play the game today. If you go to forlibertyshop.com and purchase a box of Founding Flavors coffee, for example, try our Franklin's Electric Elixir. It's rated 4.9 stars. People freaking love it. It's delicious. Check out forlibertyshop.com, make a purchase during the show. And then once you've made your purchase, or if you've dropped a Rumble rant, then you see that notification, that phone line at the bottom of the screen. If you just text us and say, hey, let's play, or I want to play, then you will get the code and the website to log in on your phone so that you can play the game show at the end of the show and win real prizes. Everybody who plays is going to be a winner, and one person is going to take home today a grand prize from the shop. There you go. Is Judge Nap on Rumble? Yes, he is. If they say, why? Tell him that it's human nature. Why does he do me that way? All right, guys. So it's this time for a little bit victory lap here. You guys have heard the phrase, politics is downstream from culture. Let me tell you guys, the river is finally changing direction, because for the first time in a long time, we're not just reacting to the left's culture bombs. We're actually planting a few of our own, and they're detonating beautifully. This is the mainstream media meltdown of the week. The New York Times the paper that thinks that pronouns are a civil rights issue, published a piece admitting, and I quote, conservatives are gaining influence in American culture. Imagine how many therapy dogs they needed after that headline in the newsroom. Why the shift? Find out on the other side of our break. Enjoy the mini documentary that you guys have unlocked this morning. We'll play it here for you. It's our little Lego mini documentary about the problems of international trade with Lego figures. And when we get back, we'll talk about why the left is losing the narrative. And then at the end, we'll play the game show. So make sure you get those Rumble Rant donations, or go to the Grift Shop during the break on the Wake Up America shows for Liberty Network.
In April, as President Donald Trump announced his so-called Liberation Day tariffs that would target imports of nearly all goods sourced from friend and foe alike, one of the biggest cheerleaders for trade protectionism took a victory lap. Those new tariffs confirm the end of the disastrous World Trade Organization era and lay the groundwork for a new set of arrangements in the international economy that prioritize the national interest and the flourishing of the nation's working families, wrote Orrin Cass, the former Mitt Romney advisor who now runs American Compass. A week later, during an interview with two reporters from Vox, Cass was asked whether the Trump administration was making an error by imposing a global tariff on all imports, including shirts and screws and picture frames and bicycles, instead of focusing on critical items like semiconductors. I think a global tariff is the right way to do things, Cass said. It's a very simple, broad policy that conveys a value that we see in domestic production. That is, more or less, the view that the White House adopted during the first year of Trump's second term. Making stuff in America matters, and the best way to encourage more production in America is to make it more expensive to import anything made somewhere. Of course, there are two major flaws with that logic. First, there are things that can't be made in America, or can't be made here in sufficient quantities to satisfy Americans' demand. Coffee, chocolate, bananas, and many other agricultural products, for example. Second, making things in America often requires importing raw materials or intermediate goods. More than 50% of all American imports are unfinished goods that are used to make other things, from cars to houses to industrial pumping equipment and chocolate bars. If all those materials are suddenly more expensive, it becomes harder, not easier, to manufacture more things here. Economists and other experts in business, manufacturing, and logistics were warning about those problems even before Trump's April announcement. But the White House's top economic advisors and protectionism fans like Cass dismissed those worries and promised that central planning would be better for everyone. In October, Cass wrote in The Atlantic that Trump's global tariffs takes the right approach to addressing globalization's failures. He dismissed tariff critics as unpatriotic nerds who don't believe that manufacturing things domestically matters. For a deep and thorough rebuttal of those claims, check out this response, crafted by two trade experts at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Yet the evidence is now becoming overwhelming. The economists knew what they were talking about. The manufacturing sector has dipped into a recession this year as executives have reported higher input prices, fewer new orders, and declining employment, all of which could be attributed to the sudden tariff hikes imposed earlier this year. Meanwhile, surveys of business owners have found very little support for tariffs, while most say Trump's trade policies are increasing uncertainty and raising costs. Consumers have been hit with one of the biggest tax increases in American history. Retail prices, which had been falling steadily since the pandemic, began increasing earlier this year as businesses passed along tariff costs, according to the Harvard Business School. Overall, businesses have faced $1.2 trillion in tariff costs this year, and consumers have paid most of that, according to one estimate from S&P Global. So much for the flourishing of the nation's working families. Reality may finally be puncturing these tariff-induced delusions. The Wall Street Journal reported this weekend that the White House is tiptoeing away from hostility to foreign trade and looking at ways to ease tariffs on goods that aren't produced in the United States. The administration recently issued a new set of temporary tariff exemptions for car parts that will provide automakers with some relief until 2030, and the White House has granted new authority to the Commerce Department and U.S. Trade Representative to exempt products from tariffs without a direct order from the president. As the Journal notes, all of that is a significant retreat from the no exemptions, no exceptions position that the White House had previously staked out. And now Cass seems to be reconsidering some of his support for the administration's universal tariffs too. In an essay published last week by Foreign Affairs, Cass wrote that Trump's trade agenda has appeared haphazard, and confronting all countries suddenly, simultaneously, and harshly has needlessly antagonized allies and heightened uncertainty. He specifically singled out the administration's tariffs on India as an example of how it has been difficult to discern the logic behind some of Trump's tariff maneuvers. That is a long way from a rejection of the White House's agenda, of course, or an admission that the tariffs have failed to achieve their primary policy aims. Still, it represents a clear, if subtle, break, a tiptoeing away, to borrow the Journal's phrase, from his support for global tariffs that definitionally require confronting all countries simultaneously. These are welcome signals, no doubt, even though it would be shocking to see either Trump or Cass fully embrace the recognition that tariffs are more costly than beneficial. The global trade war that has defined much of Trump's second-term agenda is not over yet, but the cracks in that policy are now becoming too obvious for even the most hardened tariff advocates to ignore. Maybe the economists knew what they were talking about after all. Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers, pronouns are mandatory, and Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop for libertyshop.com.
Members. Whatever his name was?
Charlie Kirk, ma'am?
Yeah, him is horrible. Horrible.
Charlie Kirk is horrible?
Yes, I'm glad he's not here.
You're glad he's dead?
Yes.
Why would you say something like that, ma'am?
Because he was horrible on the campuses, the college campuses. Horrible person.
You know what? I do the exact same thing.
Well,
would you be glad if I would die?
Maybe. I'd have to think about it.
What, if she would die?
I don't know.
Excuse me?
No, I don't know you, but I didn't know him either. But he was not a good person.
He would go to college campuses,
and
he would go to.
I think he got shot because he wasn't a good person.
I do the exact same thing that he does.
Well,
I believe I believe, and he is a moderate compared to me. You would be happy if I got shot on a public college campus?
Okay, no, baby, no.
You have got to watch the things you say, because what you just did, that's disgusting.
Don't point your finger.
Don't point my finger at her, ma'am. You have got to watch the things you say. That is awful, ma'am. And I don't believe that you actually mean that. I think your feelings are heightened right now.
I don't mean it, but he was a horrible person.
How was he a horrible person?
Because what he was doing to our students, what he was promoting, was horrible.
What was he promoting?
Right. Yeah, I'm done with you.
What was he promoting, ma'am?
Be done with her. She's pointing a finger in your face. And
yes, you're a horrible person. You're yourself and point your finger in my face and coming to this peaceful demonstration. Why would you, and put it in my face.
Go down the road here.
I am utterly speechless right now. Let this be proof right now. These people are not peaceful. Just because they're not actually committing physical acts of violence right now, they would celebrate if you died. If you believe even a modicum of what Charlie Kirk believed in, if you have dialogue like that, if you want to go out there and talk to people about any issue that they even want to bring to you to talk about, they'll celebrate your death. Right here, we see it at the No Kings protest. That is disgusting.
Remember how the left invented cancel culture? They taught us how to boycott, blacklist, and badger. Well, now conservatives have learned to punch back. And this year we've been swinging like Mike Tyson with a Twitter account. Let's talk numbers. Fight back. Disney Plus lost 12 million subscribers globally in the last year. I wonder why. Maybe because families are done with drag queens in space, gender theory, and fairy tales. Jimmy Kimmel got suspended, and suddenly everybody's reaching for their unsubscribe buttons. Netflix saw a 16% drop in U.S. user engagement after featuring another animated series with a trans demon hunting ghosts with pronoun spells. Dead End, Paranormal Park. Elon Musk called it out. Guess what? Viewership nosedive. Boom, roasted. The Bud Light effect is real. You push too hard, too fast, too woke, and the silent majority gets real loud, real fast. But let's give a little credit where it's due here, because Elon Musk has become the single most important man in modern American culture, and he didn't even have to run for office to do this. Since taking over Twitter, now X, he's fired 80% of the staff, restored free speech, and exposed FBI and DHS back channels where government goons were telling social media companies what to censor. The Twitter files showed that misinformation was just inconvenient facts. And suddenly now Twitter is finally a platform for open discourse, and libs are stuck shouting into TikTok filters and Blue Sky and Reddit threads. And Elon's just getting started. He's pushed back against trans ideology. He's fought back against environmental, social, and governance rule mandates. And the DEI industrial complex. And for that, of course, he's called a Nazi. It didn't have anything to do with his, and my heart goes out to you salute at all. It had nothing. It wasn't about that. My heart goes out to you. They call him a Nazi because when the left runs out of arguments, which usually takes about 12 seconds, they reach for the only club that they have left: racist, sexist, homophobe, fascist, blah, 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 blah. Or they just shoot us in the throat and then celebrate it. But the difference is that people are laughing now instead of just obeying immediately whenever they get called a name. Somebody gets called a racist, a sexist, a homophobe. People are no longer at the person who's accused. If anybody's doing this, they're doing it the person who's doing the accusing, because it's like, oh, you retard. You're doing that now? Oh, we could say retard again, too. If you want to know how deep the panic goes, so advertising has become the new battlefield where these ideas are being tested. So Fox News just reported that TV commercials have become the last remaining shared cultural experience in this country. So we don't trust the same news. We don't watch the same shows. We don't listen to the same podcasts, many of us, but we all see the same Super Bowl ads. So now ads have become the front line of the culture war, because whoever creates the Super Bowl ads creates the thing that everybody's going to be talking about in the days after the event. This is the front line. So Gillette, they tried a toxic masculinity angle, and they lost $8 billion in market share. Gillette, the best a man can get. Gillette commercials. They tried to go woke. It didn't work. Remember, we believe the best man can be. They took on the toxic masculinity angle. That was what lost them the $8 billion.
The Me Too movement against sexual harassment.
Masculinity. Is this the best a man can get? Is it?
It's likely happening here in bullying as well. A problem.
We can't hide from it.
Sexual harassment is taking over.
It's been going on far too long. We can't laugh it off.
Who's the daddy? What I actually think she's trying to say.
Making the same old excuses.
Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys.
But something finally changed.
Allegations regarding sexual assault and sexual harassment.
But she says
You were assaulted by a homeless man on the streets because your governor doesn't give a shit about you, Anna Kasparian.
And there will be no going back. Because we believe in the best in men.
Men need to hold other men accountable.
Smile, sweetie. Come on.
To say the right thing.
Dude, he's trying to put down some play. To these two chicks at a pool party, wearing bikinis at a pool party. You can't even hit on girls at a pool party anymore. And Gillette is going to rake you across the coals. Hold on, let's see that again.
Accountable.
Smile, sweetie. Come on.
To say the right thing.
Come on, how dare you ask her? How dare you go to a party? There's probably a lot of women out there who would say Austin's a scum-sucking pig. But I was the guy at the party, and I'm the guy who takes the pictures. I'm the guy who makes the videos. I've always been the digital guy, right? I go up to the party, I'm like, all right, smile, everybody smile, give me a smile. Because you know why? You know why I tell people to smile? It's not because, I want to see some beautiful female smile because I want to sleaze my way into her bikini later. No, it's because when people look at cameras, you all look like, I'm sorry, guys, you look like you don't know what the hell you're doing. You want to take a good picture. Everybody wants a great picture. But not everybody's willing to do what it takes to get a great picture. People give me their cameras sometimes in public. I'm like, all right, I'm going to give you the best pictures you've ever had in your life. And then I proceed to yell at them, and I'm just like, stand over there. You, look at me, smile, don't close your eyes. Or if the sun's in their eyes, I'm like, all right, close your eyes, and then open them and smile, and then boom, they get a fantastic photo. And they all owe me, bitch. Because I'm the best picture taker that there is at any of these functions. Smile, baby, smile, baby. Yeah, damn right, smile. You're gonna go up there. Who wants resting bitch face for their photo at the party? Wait, dude. Let's watch that one more time. It's so offensive to me as a photographer, especially.
Smile, sweetie. Come on.
To say the right thing. To act the right way.
Bro, not cool. Not cool.
What do you mean not cool? What do you mean not cool? This is the way our culture has been headed. What do you mean not cool? She looks fantastic. She's wearing the shortest shorts, the tightest shirt. She's walking by you. I see these TikTok videos now, these reels of these women, and they're like, men don't approach us anymore. Men don't approach us anymore. They're like, look at me, sweat glistening, boobs bouncing. And she's like, no one is talking to me anymore. Why is no one talking to you anymore? It's because of the Gillette commercials. It's because of this. It's because of this culture that has been allowed to run rampant in American society. And it's time. And finally, people are pushing back.
Say the right thing. To act the right way.
Bro, not cool. Not cool.
Some already are. In ways big
Yo, men,
and small.
I am strong.
I am strong.
It's always about women, female empowerment.
But some is not enough.
It's always emasculating men. It's always female empowerment. It's so annoying. Suburban Dad Core, he gets it. See how I stood up for you? Let me hit it. No, exactly. Right? See, I'm Captain Save It. You know what? So Gillette, they tried toxic masculinity. They lost $8 billion in market share because they used to have commercials that inspired men to greatness, that truly celebrated the best a man could get. Hold on. Where's the Gillette commercials? Oh wait, that's vintage. Gillette ads best a man could get. Where's the 1980s one? Here we go. Or at least in the 90s. This is when we were normal. Here we go. 1989. This is the shared culture.
You're looking sharp. You're looking good. You've come so far. And we know how to make the most of who you are. Father to son, it's what we've always done. To let the best of men begin.
Oh man, do you guys remember what it was like when our women loved us? Did you see that? Look at that. She loves him. She appreciates him. She respects him. She loves him. Do you remember when women loved us, guys? Like I was old enough. I lived through the 80s, 1980, 81, when women didn't despise everything about us and treat us like dog shit every day in every way, in every single instance or possibility they can through their HR departments, through commercials, through television, through movies. Do you remember when they used to do this? I remember in airports when you would see women doing this, running through the airports, grabbing their men and then swinging them around and kissing them. You don't see that anymore, do you?
On so many faces, it's plain to see. We give you all we have to give, for all a man can be. Where the race is run, you're the champion. Gillette.
The Gillette Acro Plus system with the Lubra Smooth Strip for the best a man can get.
They respected us. It was a different time. Certainly, I think that there's a long way to go, but we're moving in that direction. Nike pushed Colin Kaepernick. Short-term boost, long-term backlash. We need to bring this energy back.
We know we see all the men you have to be. Just how much you give, all the lives you live.
From Gillette Sensor Technology comes the Gillette Series, shaving, aftershave, and deodorant products to help a man look, feel, and be his best. The Gillette Series with Gillette Sensor, it's redefining men's grooming.
Target, remember, had the rainbow toddler swimsuits with the tuck-friendly features, right? You know, in case your 4-year-old boy identifies as a mermaid. And let's not forget the granddaddy of all the tone-deaf disasters. Bud Light thought it was a good idea to team up with Dylan Mulvaney and called Middle America fratty and out of touch. They lost $27 billion in market value. They're now literally giving their beer away at stadiums sometimes. And you can get a Bud Light with a hot dog and an apology letter these days. Gillette, the best a man can get. So what are smart companies doing? What are they doing? They're pulling back. They're recentering. They're testing ads with normal people again. Can you imagine that? Conservatives are finally creating market consequences for cultural betrayal, and that is how you win the long game. The counter-revolution begins. The New York Times is reporting on this. That's how you know that things have gotten bad for the left in this country. There is a rise of a parallel economy. Yes. Libertarian ideas will win in spite of libertarians. Rumble is growing faster than YouTube. Public Square is the anti-woke Amazon. ForLibertyShop.com. We're selling actual pro-America gear without asking you to disclose your pronouns at the checkout. I hate that, man. When I fill out forms anymore and they're asking for my sexuality or my race, I just decline to answer. Your bank's asking questions, all this demographic shit. Decline. How about you? You opting out of all that shit these days? Gillette, the best a man could get. Heart of Erie says, I love real men. Does that mean, would you run across the airport and grab your man? Would you do that? Would you go that far, would you say? You haven't seen him for a week? Gillette, the best a man can get. Man, it was the 1980s. I feel like 80s and early 90s. We were all just we didn't know how good we had it, did we, guys? So we're not asking to be in the club anymore as conservatives. On the right, we're building our own clubhouse. The alternative economy is on the rise. We're not asking for permission. You know what the Amazon web server problem that they had the other day? All these websites are going down. They wouldn't have had that problem if they were on Rumble's architecture and infrastructure. See, Rumble learned the lesson from Parler. They learned the lesson from Parler that you cannot build up your house on the sand. You have to build up your house on the rock. Rumble has created their own architecture. It's a parallel infrastructure because, of course, they don't want to have to build their video servers out on Amazon servers. So Rumble has created their own server farms in order to offer web services the same way that Amazon does. Right now, like, for example, I will use GoDaddy as a host for some of my websites. And when I do, my infrastructure is dependent on another corporation. If they don't like what I'm saying, GoDaddy could, in theory, take down some of my websites. That's a dangerous place to be in. In theory, we should all be moving ourselves over to Rumble's infrastructure and architecture. And a lot of these websites that were down or having problems due to the Amazon web server outage would not have had those problems because we would be less reliant on the mega corporation Amazon. You don't want to rely on Amazon. Amazon took down Parler, so now Rumble wants to ensure that they build up their house on the rock. So they've built up their own rock, and now they're building their house on top of it. This is fantastic. You love to see it. So there's a petition in Texas demanding that George Strait headline the Super Bowl instead of Bad Bunny. Probably not going to happen, but people are tired of twerking Latinx dancers and reggaeton Jesus. They want cowboy hats, steel guitars, and lyrics that don't require subtitles. So here's the big picture. This is the New York Times. The left is losing control of the narrative. Conservatives are learning how to use markets, media, and memes to push back. We are here at the For Liberty Network, and we are on the front line of that fight. If you're not in the Discord yet, just go to forlibertynetwork.com and join us over there. We're building a healthy, thriving liberty community at forlibertynetwork.com. We're adding new shows to the Wake Up America show. So many exciting announcements to come. We are one of the frontline soldiers in this fight to take back our culture. But it's not over. We're not playing defense anymore. We're now going on the offense, and we're actually winning. But this fight is going to be a long fight, and you shouldn't be surprised when they're going to try and step up their censorship. They're going to protest louder. They're going to call for more assassinations of conservative political figures or right-wing political figures. But we should take heart because the tide really is turning. And Reagan once said, what does it look like? We win, they lose. This is Wake Up America. Let's keep the pressure on. Who wants to play the Great Grift Off Liberty Loot Live? It's game show time. So here's the story. At the end of the show, we usually end right around 9 a.m. We start to, press the sad music. But here's the thing. The show's really not over yet. We're going to actually play a little game. It's going to be a fun game. And the game is called Liberty Loot Live. How do we play the game? Well, if you've made any kind of a donation this morning to the Wake Up America show, then you're eligible to play the game. If you made a Rumble Rant donation, if you made a purchase from the shop, you are eligible. So here's how it's going to work. All you got to do is send us a text to that phone number at the bottom of the screen and say, let's play. You're going to get a code, and it's time for everybody to log in who has a code. If you don't have a code, drop a Rumble Rant real quick. Send us a text real quick. You can still get in the game. Let's see how many people I've got waiting on standby for. There's only one person signed in right now, which means if we started the game right now, somebody's going to get the grand prize from the shop. No competition. If one other person comes in who made a contribution, who's eligible, that makes it 50-50 odds of winning today's grand prize, which is a box of Founding Flavors coffee from the shop. It's now 50-50, Frickety versus Quest. If anyone else made a contribution to the show this morning, you are eligible and you can play the game right now. You'll go to crowdparty.app. That's crowdparty.app on your phones. You'll enter the code that you got from Brad. What do you mean you didn't get the code? You didn't get the code? Oh, send us a text, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. All but two have texted in. They may not even be on. So it might be two one-on-one, which would be actually really fun to watch. But don't worry, everybody is going to be a winner that plays this morning. Everybody's going to walk away with something. So here's what you do. Send us a text if you've made a Rumble Rant donation this morning. 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. I'm going to play one short little commercial. When we get back, it's the Great Grift Off Live. We're going to play the game show. Somebody's going to win a prize from the shop, a box of coffee. And you can also be a winner. So do yourself a favor. Make sure you text the phone line 573-319-1586. We will send you your login code. And then when we get back, we'll start the game. It's the Great Grift Off, Liberty Loot Live. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Picture this. It's 1776. Thomas Jefferson is hunched over his desk at Monticello, ink-stained fingers, writing the most radical document in human history. Do you really think he was sipping Starbucks? No. He was drinking something bold, something black, something brewed strong enough to fuel a revolution. That's the spirit behind Founding Flavors, our signature line of liberty-fueled coffee. No soy froth, no climate guilt, no corporate slogans, just real coffee, inspired by the men who wrote freedom into existence. Every cup is a quiet protest. Against mediocrity, against tyranny, against bad coffee. So this morning, skip the globalist brew. Grab something worthy of a free man's sunrise. Founding Flavors. Now brewing at forlibertyshop.com.
Here we go. I put on a little Halloween autumn jazz for you guys in the background as we play. We've got our sixth player, and it's time to go. Get ready. Halloween song trivia. Darkness falls across the land. Answer on your phones. We've got 6 people playing today. One will take home a grand prize, a free box of Founding Flavors coffee, but everyone else will win something. Ooh, the beast begins to rise. Only one person answered it wrong. The midnight hour is close at hand. Actually, I'm not, hold on one second. I'm not a big fan of this music, so I'm going to switch it. We want something more kind of like, why not like a Thriller remix? Let's do it. Thriller. Oh, yeah, this is a good remix. There we go, guys. Let's hear it. All right, coming in. All right, let's continue. Next round. Andy Offerman, number 1. St. Selma, number 2. Frickety, number 3. I'm friends with the monster that's under my bed. Ooh, good one. Andy, number 1. Thriller 9. Who said screams in the street? Come on. Oh, St. Selma, number 1. Rock, paper, scissors.
It's close to midnight. Something evil's lurking in the dark.
St. Selma starting to run away with it. No time to win.
You try to scream, but terror takes the sound before you make it. You start to breathe.
Oh, it caught on in a flash. Monster Mash. Here we go. Ghostbusters. If it's something strange. Oh, 6 out of 6 on that one. St. Selma and the Offerman and Quest. Dead Man's Party. Is it never going to stop? Nothing to fear. Who could ask for more? Or welcome to the show. Who could ask for more? Somebody got it right. Say Selma, Siggy's mom, and Andy Opperman. 1, 2, 3. God, this is so much fun. We're playing for real prizes this morning, guys. Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. Round 8. Finish the lyrics. Who are you gonna call? Round 9. Let's turn on the party lights. They're creepy and they're kooky. Mysterious and spooky. One more round. Who we got? Who's the winner? Andy Opperman. Woo-hoo! Congratulations, Andy. Brad's going to send you a code for a free box of Founding Flavors coffee. Enjoy it. Congratulations. Way to go. So happy for you. Thriller night. Siggy's mom was pretty close there at number 2. Congratulations. Everybody's going to get a prize today, though. So thank you so much for all your financial contributions. Andy Opperman, you won the game today, but who knows who it could be tomorrow. As long as you guys keep unlocking that bonus content, we'll keep playing. We'll keep sharing like. We'll just have a lot of fun. Halloween themed style. We'll just keep doing the Halloween stuff, I think, till the end of the month. Great game, great show, said Joni Rankin. Glad you enjoyed it. Hopefully tomorrow we'll be able to play again. If you guys keep making those contributions like you have, we'll always unlock the bonus content. You'll always get to see the mini documentaries, and you'll always get to play the game. As long as it works, it works. Let's do it. Hardvery says, finally I have AP for Liberty on my laptop. Much better than my phone. Absolutely, Hardvery. Can't wait to see you again tomorrow. You'll have my heart, and it won't be eerie. I'm Austin Peterson. This is the Wake Up America show. Don't forget to exit through the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com, and we'll see you guys tonight with Liberty Tonight with Brian Piotr, and we'll be back tomorrow morning on the Wake Up America shows for Liberty Network.
Welcome, foolish mortals. Tonight, we bring you together here, to this haunted dance floor, to awaken the spirits of Halloween. The club killers have summoned your soul. Your DJ will now take control.
His so-called Liberation Day tariffs that would target imports of nearly all goods sourced from friend and foe alike, one of the biggest cheerleaders for trade protectionism took a victory lap. Those new tariffs confirm the end of the disastrous World Trade Organization era, and lay the groundwork for a new set of arrangements in the international economy that prioritize the national interest and the flourishing of the nation's working families, wrote Orrin Cass, the former Mitt Romney advisor who now runs American Compass. A week later, during an interview with two reporters from Vox, Cass was asked whether the Trump administration was making an error by imposing a global tariff on all imports, including shirts and screws and picture frames and bicycles, instead of focusing on critical items like semiconductors. "I think a global tariff is the right way to do things," Cass said. "It's a very simple, broad policy that conveys a value that we see in domestic production." That is, more or less, the view that the White House adopted during the first year of Trump's second term. Making stuff in America matters, and the best way to encourage more production in America is to make it more expensive to import anything made somewhere. Of course, there are two major flaws with that logic. First, there are things that can't be made in America, or can't be made here in sufficient quantities to satisfy Americans' demand. Coffee, chocolate, bananas, and many other agricultural products, for example. Second, making things in America often requires importing raw materials or intermediate goods. More than 50% of all American imports are unfinished goods that are used to make other things, from cars to houses to industrial pumping equipment and chocolate bars. If all those materials are suddenly more expensive, it becomes harder, not easier, to manufacture more things here. Economists and other experts in business, manufacturing, and logistics were warning about those problems even before Trump's April announcement. But the White House's top economic advisors and protectionism fans like Cass dismissed those worries and promised that central planning would be better for everyone. In October, Cass wrote in The Atlantic that Trump's global tariffs takes the right approach to addressing globalization's failures. He dismissed tariff critics as unpatriotic nerds who don't believe that manufacturing things domestically matters. For a deep and thorough rebuttal of those claims, check out this response, crafted by two trade experts at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Yet the evidence is now becoming overwhelming. The economists knew what they were talking about. The manufacturing sector has dipped into a recession this year, as executives have reported higher input prices, fewer new orders, and declining employment, all of which could be attributed to the sudden tariff hikes imposed earlier this year. Meanwhile, surveys of business owners have found very little support for tariffs, while most say Trump's trade policies are increasing uncertainty and raising costs. Consumers have been hit with one of the biggest tax increases in American history. Retail prices, which had been falling steadily since the pandemic, began increasing earlier this year as businesses passed along tariff costs, according to the Harvard Business School. Overall, businesses have faced $1.2 trillion in tariff costs this year, and consumers have paid most of that, according to one estimate from S&P Global. So much for the flourishing of the nation's working families. Reality may finally be puncturing these tariff-induced delusions. The Wall Street Journal reported this weekend that the White House is tiptoeing away from hostility to foreign trade and looking at ways to ease tariffs on goods that aren't produced in the United States. The administration recently issued a new set of temporary tariff exemptions for car parts that will provide automakers with some relief until 2030, and the White House has granted new authority to the Commerce Department and U.S. Trade Representative to exempt products from tariffs without a direct order from the president. As the Journal notes, all of that is a significant retreat from the no exemptions, no exceptions position that the White House had previously staked out. And now Cass seems to be reconsidering some of his support for the administration's universal tariffs too. In an essay published last week by Foreign Affairs, Cass wrote that Trump's trade agenda has appeared haphazard, and confronting all countries suddenly, simultaneously, and harshly has needlessly antagonized allies and heightened uncertainty. He specifically singled out the administration's tariffs on India as an example of how it has been difficult to discern the logic behind some of Trump's tariff maneuvers. That is a long way from a rejection of the White House's agenda, of course, or an admission that the tariffs have failed to achieve their primary policy aims. Still, it represents a clear, if subtle, break, a tiptoeing away, to borrow the Journal's phrase, from his support for global tariffs that definitionally require confronting all countries simultaneously. These are welcome signals, no doubt, even though it would be shocking to see either Trump or Cass fully embrace the recognition that tariffs are more costly than beneficial. The global trade war that has defined much of Trump's second-term agenda is not over yet, but the cracks in that policy are now becoming too obvious for even the most hardened tariff advocates to ignore. Maybe the economists knew what they were talking about after all.